Resuming debate, the honourable member from St. John's East.
Madam Speaker, I rise today in support of the speech for the throne. But first, let me thank the people of St. John's East for placing their trust in me. The election was closely contested, and so I also thank the former member, Mr. Jack Harris, and also thank him for his years of public service. He was a member of the 33rd, 40th, and 41st Parliaments. He was a longtime member of the Newfoundland House of Assembly, and of course he was also the longtime leader of the New Democratic Party of Newfoundland and Labrador. I would also like to thank all of my incredible volunteers and supporters throughout the historically long campaign. In particular, I would like to thank my wife, Dr. Sarah Noble, for her steadfast support and wise counsel not only during the campaign, but also in our life together. My children for their understanding, love, and homemade campaign signs, and my parents for being exemplary role models. My mother is an environmentalist who has fought for tougher environmental assessment standards and against the importation of foreign garbage for incineration in Newfoundland and Labrador. And my father practiced law for 39 years, taking on many cases in support of human rights and the impoverished, and presented himself as a candidate for the Liberal Party of Canada in 1974 when I was only 1 year old. Although he inspired me to run, he never pushed me towards it and actively discouraged me a couple of years ago when he learned that I was interested. But when he found out that he couldn't dissuade me from my lifelong dream of representing the people of St. John's East, he jumped in with both feet and was my biggest supporter. Thanks, Dad. Also, a big thanks to all the people of St. John's East, including the 24,000 people who voted for the other candidates. I'll work hard to make sure that St. John's East is able to take the full benefit of the ambitious platform outlined in the speech from the throne and on which the Liberal Party of Canada campaigned and won the election. During January, I participated in many public and private sessions as part of pre-budget consultations, and I can assure the House that the people of Canada are optimistic that the speech from the throne and the minister mandate letters incorporated therein by reference chart the right course for Canada and should also benefit the people of St. John's East. I would like to highlight for the House how St. John's East participates in Confederation and highlights hopes for the government priorities in infrastructure to help the middle class, putting climate change and environmental science at the heart of resource development, research and innovation, and support for our cultural institutions. The electoral district of St. John's East has existed in one form or another since Newfoundland and Labrador joined Confederation. As urbanization has pulled a greater concentration of citizens into St. John's and the surrounding municipalities, we've compressed geographically, but we are still very economically diverse. Our over 80,000 constituents live in both 19th century mansions and public housing, or on the streets. New subdivisions like Kenmount Terrace have public transit needs, while the former mining town of Bell Island has an aging population and very serious ferry troubles and food security issues. We host the provincial seat of government, the main campus of Memorial University of Newfoundland, and the St. John's International Airport. While we face serious challenges, we also have great opportunities, especially in infrastructure. The timing has never been better to invest in Canada's infrastructure. Although we inherited a recession, $3 billion deficit, and a mounting infrastructure deficit, we campaigned and won on a platform of being honest with Canadians about the state of our economy and on investing in public infrastructure as a means to spur economic growth and improve Canada's lagging productivity. Our government is committed to increase planned infrastructure investment from $65 billion to $125 billion over the next decade. This historic investment in our nation could not have come at a better time. With $20 billion in three areas, public transit, green infrastructure, and social infrastructure, it is hands down the largest infrastructure investment in Canada's history. Our public consultation attendees have identified many projects to drive economic growth now. In respect of public transit, the suburban municipality regions around St. John's are already investigating the expansion of their public transit service so that they get into St. John's more easily. They've had successful pilot projects completed. Transit hubs in those areas feeding into St. John's would get people moving again. In respect of green infrastructure, Newfoundland and Labrador is already undertaking a mega project at Muskrat Falls in Labrador with financial backing from Canada. The continued federal support and the completion of Muskrat Falls will mean that renewable energy can power 100% of Newfoundland and Labrador's on-grid electricity needs. This project will replace electricity in St. John's East, currently serviced by the oil-fired Holyrood Generating Facility. The Gull Island project of the same river has the opportunity to provide an additional 2,250 megawatts of clean energy to the North American distribution system. Federal government participation in ways to get clean energy resources to market would be appreciated by all Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, and indeed all Canadians. In respect of public infrastructure, housing, especially seniors housing and affordable housing for young families, is a constant concern. It's an issue my constituency office discusses on a weekly, if not daily basis. Our party has heard their pleas, and I'm proud to say that our Prime Minister announced that this government will build 500 new affordable housing units in St. John's. This is a good start towards addressing the social ills inadequate housing has been shown to cause, and we welcome the support to those in my riding struggling with housing needs. Responding to climate change is of importance to the people of St. John's East. After almost a decade of being forgotten, the environment will now again be at the core of natural resource development. The speech from the throne helps chart a course to restoring Canada's international reputation on environmental matters and helping us earn back lost market share in green technology research, development, and commercialization. The fishery, mining, and energy sectors in my province are keen to participate in projects and to see new and innovative ideas develop in collaboration with universities and government. I had the good fortune to meet with Seacor, a leading-edge ice and geotechnical engineering research institution at Memorial University of Newfoundland. They are interested in the applied research needed to understand how oil spilled from increased ship traffic or offshore development in the north will interact with sea ice, and how such spills can be contained and remediated. Newfoundland and Labrador is an ideal place to carry on such research. My community is excited by the promised investment by this government in research and innovation, and in university, incubator, industry collaborations. These will be at the heart of answering the sea ice oil dynamics question, which will determine whether and how we can safely pursue shipping in the Northwest Passage. Du 7 au 9 janvier, j'ai également eu la chance.
From January 7th to 9th, I also had the opportunity to take part in the 69th Annual Fisheries Research Conference, which was held in my riding. Canadian experts on oceans, freshwater, and fisheries work hard to help us find solutions on how to manage these resources sustainably, and I commend their efforts. I'm very pleased that I will be seeing a number of them again at St. John's at the International Marine Conservation Conference, which will be held in July. In the Minister's mandate letter, the government promises that Canada will reinstate and reinforce environmental legislation governing the protection of our watercourses, our lands, our air, and our country, so that the current generation of Canadians and those to come can continue to have a healthy environment. The citizens of St. John's East really wish to participate in these efforts.
It's not limited to climate change. Commercialization of research drives productivity. Research and development are crucial in our plan for a more competitive Canadian economy. Also of particular concern to St. John's East is support for the arts. Our vibrant arts and cultural scene rivals any in Canada. Theatre, live music, public art, arts festivals and radio, movie and television productions, these are prominent parts of the daily life of many in my hometown.
After a decade of cuts made to the arts sector, my voters are happy to hear that finally the government will increase funding to the Canada Council by $90 million per year for the next 2 years, which will bring the amount from $180 million to $360 million.
There will be renewed investment in cultural infrastructure. There will be to build the spaces and places artists and communities will use to promote our culture. By increasing the CBC funding to by $150 million over the next 2 years, the CBC can better perform a mandate it has been hampered in doing over the past decade, promoting Canadian culture, identity, bilingualism, and heritage. I'm very grateful to have the support of the people of St. John's East and the privilege to serve them in this august chamber. I promise to work diligently with my colleagues in all the seats of this House to help see the speech from the throne fulfilled and to usher in a new era for Canada where no one is left behind. Merci, Madame la Ministre. Président.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.